this week's episode of One Piece, Doflamingo is officially defeated by Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. The massive birdcage has finally disappeared, and Dressrosa, a kingdom which now stands in ruins, is officially reborn from the ashes, free from the tyranny of Don Quixote Doflamingo. That's right, my friends, the Dressrosa arc is coming to an end. Doflamingo has officially had his ass handed to him, and in this week's episode, everyone celebrates. They celebrate with each other, their family, their friends, and they all celebrate with lots of tears and snot coming out of their nose. This was an episode where pretty much everyone cried constantly. In fact, this episode could be described in really three ways. Luffy, he's fine. He survived his battle with Doflamingo. He's gonna go on to fight more crazy bad guys in the One Piece universe, all of which will end up getting their asses thoroughly stomped as well. Next, we have the birdcage, which finally decides to just disappear, and honestly, I liked this scene a lot. I loved everyone's reaction to actually seeing it finally going away, finally being relieved, no longer having to push against it and battle against it, worrying about their friends and family getting killed and destroyed. And I especially loved that one guy who was turned into that toy, who was just thrown into the darkness, into that heap, and he finally is free from all of this bullcrap. I love the shot of the two strings actually shadowed on his face as they're disappearing. It was a really effective scene. Then, right after that, we had what is probably the best part of the episode, which is finally seeing Kyros let it all out and finally cry. He's so manly that he has to go away from everyone to do that, but you can really feel the weight of this entire arc finally getting off of his shoulders. Not to mention, this arc went on for a really long time. This was just a ridiculous episode right here that basically made you reflect on the entire Dressrosa arc, because pretty much every major player had an appearance in this episode, and a lot of it was emceed by Gyatso, one of the greatest anime announcers that I have ever seen. His build-up to saying that Luffy was the winner was a little long-winded, but honestly it worked for this type of episode, which isn't a groundbreaking episode. It's not meant to reinvent the wheel or anything. This is just a celebration of Luffy's victory. You want to know who's celebrating the most? Leo from the Tontada tribe. He's hanging out in Nico Robin's clavage. There was also a moment in this episode that really started to get to me, and it mostly has to do with the music. It's that one classic One Piece music track which is called Mother Sea, which they used during a lot of really big, sad scenes, like that one where the Going Merry was having its funeral. Every single time they play that music, it just always hits me right in the feels. And it worked perfectly in this episode with Rebecca crying over Luffy. I have to admit it was a little strange with her tears constantly dousing his passed out looking face, but it made for some pretty funny imagery. And I loved Usopp's reaction to them finally getting out of it. It was very triumphant. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? This was the celebration episode of Luffy's victory over Doflamingo and everybody reacting to the birdcage and letting all of their emotions out. This episode was a great reminder of how epic this arc really was and how it started out very simple, just a tournament arc, which could have just been the run-of-the-mill arc that we see all the time in these fighting tournaments, but no, it evolved into this massive kingdom takeover with all of these wacky villains and amazing new heroes. The Dressrosa arc is awesome. It's still technically not done. There's still a lot of things to wrap up and a few extra surprises. If you want to get a preview to some of those, check out the preview for next week's episode. That's just the beginning of it, my friends. But this episode right here just felt like relief, like we're finally done. Now, it wasn't the most exciting episode in the world, and of course the pacing was very, very slow because just about nothing happened. But like I said, this was a good reflection episode, just a chance to sort of take a breather before we move on to bigger and better things. That being said, I did like this episode quite a bit, especially Luffy finally returning, Law actually saving him, and just seeing the reactions of all of the characters. I think my favorite one was probably Frankie. When all the Tontada tribe members got on his body, he decided to give them all a big hug, and they of course were all immediately crushed. That was pretty awesome. The moment with Kyros at the end of the episode was also pretty effective, seeing him finally just let it all out and realizing just all of the torture that he has gone through. Not just his tortured past as a warrior who's killed like hundreds, if not thousands of men, but the fact that his wife was killed, he was separated from his daughter, turned into a freaking toy soldier, and then he loses his leg. Not only that, he has to endure years of torture of not being able to reconnect with his daughter. Then he finally returns and everything just goes to shit, only for a pirate to come in and end up saving the day. Yet he's still grateful, and that's what's amazing about the character. He just had to get away from everybody so that he could sort of let it all out, and it was a really effective scene. This is the type of episode that's going to appeal to some and not to others. There are going to be others who are ready to get into the next arc, and there's going to be people like me who actually really liked this episode a lot. Just keep in mind, like I said, nothing too crazy. So I am going to give this week's episode a 3 out of 5. Just an average episode of One Piece, but a pretty decently average episode. Just getting to see everyone finally celebrating, and this is just the beginning of the celebration and some more twists and turns, so make sure to stay tuned. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with the rest of the Dressrosa arc and beyond. So, I liked this episode. I thought it was pretty good, but what about you guys? How did you feel about this week's episode of One Piece? Were you celebrating Luffy's victory? Did you think this episode was just a little too slow? Did you have any favorite reactions from this episode from some of the characters? Any favorite moments? Maybe some funny moments? And what do you want to see from the rest of the One Piece anime series? Please tell me in the comments section below. You guys are awesome! Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, please do so. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews as they are released. You guys can also follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. Make sure to check out all that stuff. Description box below. You know the drill. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!